This is a podcast of the Home Fix Show with Joe Prin.
Well, good morning to you and welcome back to the Home Fix Show here on News Talk KBOI. I'm Joe Prin. Thank you for joining us. If you are just tuning in, if you've carried over from the first hour, welcome back. I appreciate the time that you do spend with us. Here's a program for you if you're new to the show where we talk about our building of our houses, the repairs, the maintenance, the improvements, working with contractors, the cost of materials, products, advice, differing opinions. That's how it all works. But the only way we can interact is for you to grab your phone and punch in 208-336-3700 and we talk. Live streaming and podcasts of the show are available at both KBOI.com or wherever you find your podcasts. And when you're not near your radio, you can also listen live through the KBOI app or ask your smart speaker to play KBOI. Anytime you have a question or comment, my email address is joe@joeprin.com. And that's also the website, joeprin.com, where you can find the names and the numbers of the sponsors, the contractors, and the service providers that you hear on the show and that I recommend to you, all for free. It's available there at joeprin.com. Actually, their work that they do is not free, just the phone number there is for them. Again, welcome to the show, and the number is 208-336-3700. Now, as I promised, well, let me start with this. Frustrating, embarrassing, humbling, confusion, stressful, exciting. Those could all be words that maybe describe some of the emotions that my next guest here was going through and is still going through. Christian Niezgoda and James Reeves are in studio with me. Christian, you are a homeowner and also a hobbyist and enthusiast, along with my son-in-law, James here. Good morning, James.
Good morning.
Say hi, Christian, so we hear your voice.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. Okay, that's Christian with the deep voice, and James, not quite as deep a voice.
Not quite as deep this morning, but ready to go in.
You two have been friends for quite a while. James, how about you tell me how that all came to be? Because you got into a new hobby.
Yeah, so like a lot of us and a lot of listeners, COVID inspired a lot of different directions for people's interests, and I really wanted to study mechanics and how to be a bit more tactile with my hands, whether that was home improvement or doing automotive work, and that spiraled into an interest into drifting. And I reached out to my local community, and before I knew it, I was working with Christian here, and he was helping me build my first drift car.
Yeah, and you've done quite well with that. I'm very impressed. I've done a ride along with you, and you scared the living out of me that but I want to go back. It's like when it's all over, it's like, let's do that again. Let's do that again. That was fun.
It's the best. And
Christian, I understand you were the teacher of this to the young Padawan student here. Is that correct?
Yeah, James came to an event in Walla Walla, Washington, and that's where I really met him before he even had the car, and he got a ride along in the same thing, just got hooked. It's kind of a beautiful thing with drifting is you get really hooked really fast, and you just want more because it's scary all at the same time, and the funnest thing you'll ever probably do the next couple seconds after, And you do this on tracks in a supervised and legal manner and do it right with all the right safety equipment and supervision and assistance there. This is not the kids out there on the streets doing this, trying to be like that. You guys are truly the professionals in an amateur hobby type situation. But from what I understand, let me see if this is right, Christian. You have a home, correct? You have a home now, and it had a shop type building on it that you were working on your cars, or James could take his over and work on it and stuff. And it was falling down around your ears, I guess. Is that about right? Describe what you had to start with. So essentially I bought the home back in 2017, and they had converted the 2-car garage that was attached to the home into living space because it was a pretty small home.
Roughly where is this in the valley here?
Right around Eustic and 5 Mile.
Okay, all right.
And so I had a little 20 by 30 shop. It was like maybe 8 feet tall. And someone had built that shop in the backyard.
How old is the house and then the property?
The home is a 1973 structure.
Okay. It was that first wave of West Boise construction out there.
Right.
All right.
Yeah. So,
well, not the first, but yeah. Okay.
but so when I moved in, they had this shop and everything looked fine and dandy when I was looking through it, and you have that kind of, this is the perfect home. It's got everything I need, and you kind of overlook some things.
Yeah, you don't care about the kitchen and the bathrooms and the bedrooms, but man, this shop is going to be just right.
Yeah.
This is all I will ever need. I have found Shop Vana right here.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of what happened. And we got moved in. I started working, and I started putting things in there. And I started noticing a few things about the shop that the previous owner had built.
Previous owner is a phrase that shows up, that just sends chills. I found this electrical issue from the previous owner. Yeah.
Which the whole home has been rattled with previous owner problems. Obviously. But so I started finding the center beam of the shop was starting to bow down. They had taken two beams and connected them with metal straps. And
with no support in the middle?
No support in the middle.
Yay! Score one for the home team.
And so it started kind of like bowing down in the middle, and the roof started to come down. And then I started noticing that some stuff wasn't nailed together properly and different things. And so at that point, we decided we wanted to either repair or rebuild that structure with something better. I'm in there working. I'm trying to help these guys with their drift cars. I'm trying to make their lives a little bit easier and teach them all at the same time. And so what we ran into was at that point, I wanted to make it better. I wanted to make it bigger. I wanted to make it stronger. And
you're in an area with the zoning and there's no homeowners association or restrictions or anything. You just have to follow the codes and all that, and you can do what you want there. And from what I understand, others in the neighborhood have done similar types of things. They've got shop buildings and stuff.
Yeah, and so I kind of went around my neighborhood and I was looking at different things that people had, and there's some shops and stuff that are like, there's one guy that has a shop that's maybe a foot off of his house, and so I'm like, oh, okay, this should be okay. I'm just going to rebuild it on the same spot. I'm just going to build it a little bit taller so I have a little bit more storage so that we can put, our home things and stuff like that inside and have a little bit more room to work with.
You were going to make some significant improvements cosmetically and structurally to your home.
Right.
All the while with this existing structure, there were no qualms or problems. He was just working with what he had.
Right.
There was, almost a decade of work happening, and nothing, no red flags or anything coming up. Things were happening as normal with no one coming and knocking saying like, oh, you need to stop.
There's no problems with the neighbors or anything, because you're the ideal neighbor. Is Christian, my car's making this noise. Can you help me fix it? Yeah, bring it over.
Yeah,
and you take care of it for people.
I've totally done that for my neighbors and things like that. And I'm always respectful too. I don't start working on stuff till 9 a.m. whether it's a weekend or a weekday.
Yeah.
Even though you can start at 7. I like to respect people as much as I like to respect myself. So and I'm done by 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at the very, very latest.
Yeah, and you don't have people complaining and coming over and, hey, Christian, can you keep it down a little bit? So you're a nice neighbor. You're a good neighbor. You're a good friend to have. So we'll get that out of the way. But soon after you started thinking about rebuilding, some of the problems started happening. And we're going to hear that story when we come back, more with Christian and James and their journey through this project. I'm hoping that you can relate to some of this. Not that, that happened to me, but I want to make sure that never happens to me. So, and thank you for coming in and sharing this, Christian. That takes a lot to admit to some of the things you're about to do. When we come back with more of the Home Fix Show here on News Talk KBOI. I'm speaking with Christian Niezgoda and James Reeves, friends of each other and part of the drifting sport. Is it a sport, Christian, or is it a community? Is it a fellowship? It's
kind of all of the above, really.
All of that?
It is a motorsport. There's professionals out there. They're actually running the professional series in Seattle this weekend. And then you have, people like James and I who just our friends. We hang out. We go drive random events that are being held at lower levels, and just go have fun.
Yeah, I've watched you at Meridian Speedway. You run your cars out there. They've added to the track to allow drifting to take place. There's a new racing facility in Emmett, where the old Boise Cascade Mill is. On that, what's the name of that facility?
Blue Valor Motorplex.
Blue Valley Motorplex.
Valor.
Blue Valor. Okay, thank you. I haven't been to see that one yet, but James, I believe the last time you were there, you put your car in the wall and you did a little bit of damage.
The first time I had ever driven there, yes,
Yeah.
I did. I skate into the wall a little bit. The last time I was there, I drove the car home on its own accord.
Sideways.
I drove home within the legal parameters of the law.
No, I mean sideways because it was bent.
Oh, it was a little bit bent the time before.
Yeah.
That it left on a tow truck that time.
And that's the thing. Your vehicle is street legal. Some of these aren't, and they're made for track only. But anyway, thanks for fixing him, Christian.
Yeah.
Thanks for getting him fixed up. All right, so where we left off, Christian had this workshop that was behind his house, and he wanted to make the improvements to it. And as you heard, it was not the best structure for continuing on with that. And if I understand right, you wanted to use the existing slab and foundation that was there, just build a new structure on top of that. Pick it up from there.
Yeah, so essentially, I actually was kind of to back it up just a hair. When I started working on the structure that was there, I started to find more and more that was wrong with it. Right. So originally I thought, okay, I'll keep the walls, I'll fix the roof, I'll fix a couple things. Mm-hmm. We started taking the building down, and my friend that was on the roof of the building helping me take the roof off of it almost went through it because the 2x6s that were supposed to be nailed to the center beams weren't. The only thing that were holding the roof from the 2x6s sliding off the beam entirely were the sheet metal screws for the roof cap.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was
wow.
pretty wild. And so we started taking it apart. We got to the point where the walls started coming out, and we started pulling the posts for the walls, and the posts for the walls were like set on top of the cement blocks that you would build a like patio deck out of, like just those
little pier blocks.
Yeah. Yeah. So the whole structure, essentially what it boiled down to is they built this structure on those blocks, and then they poured concrete inside of it. And so the posts of the building were only 3.5 inches in the ground, which is not really in the ground. They were just concreted around on top of these blocks.
So as you're doing this, you're thinking, wow, it's amazing that this thing has even stood up as long as it has.
Yeah.
It was really this was no way an engineered or inspected or properly built structure. You had no salvage value to this.
Right. Yeah. It was complete junk. I mean,
okay.
There was no question about keeping it. So that, once we got to that point, it was, we got a new steel structure. It was a galvanized steel Versatube building we ordered.
Oh, okay. A kit.
Yeah. So it's just a kit. They send it to you. It's all pre-bent. You screw it into the concrete slab and just make sure your slab's, thick enough and can handle it. They pre-engineer it all. And so I, at that point, just kept rolling with the punches. And I was, from at the point I was at, I had the understanding that I could just rebuild what I had without having to ask anybody.
Right. Because you tore it down to the bare slab and the foundation, right? And now you're starting to rebuild this kit in the exact same place, the exact same size, just better.
Right. And actually it was a little bit smaller because I brought it inwards onto the concrete slab instead of around the concrete slab like it was before.
Oh, gotcha.
So I narrowed the building and made it a little bit shorter to bring it on, make it a little bit safer in my eyes. Like you're putting the load on the concrete. You have some edging there to where the concrete's not going to completely shatter underneath of it.
Right.
And so, I thought about those things and started putting this building together. And so we got, I would say about 2/3 done. I mean, I had a roof on this thing. I had most of the side sheet metal on it. Mm-hmm. We screwed everything together, and
then it happened.
Yeah, July 3rd of all times, right?
Independence Day.
The day before.
You found you weren't so independent as you thought.
Yeah. So I had an inspector show up at my door, and he handed me. Yeah.
Is the owner here?
Yeah, he handed me a cease to build notice. I had to stop building, and essentially it was because I didn't have a permit, which I didn't know I needed.
Right.
Because I thought that I was just essentially rebuilding or remodeling an existing structure.
Sure.
And
it's not living space. I can see why you would think that.
Right. I'm young. I'm kind of new to this game, and still learning. And I've built a lot of things with my father growing up, and that's why I have some of these skill sets, and I'm pretty useful with my hands.
Yeah, I've seen what you can build. You know what you're doing.
Yeah, and so I didn't think anything of it. I figured I'm building a better building. It's in the same spot. There's, the setbacks and everything in my eyes are like something was already there. It's no big deal.
It's safer. It's more flame resistant. It's an improvement to the property and the view of the neighbors. Everything was good.
Yeah,
but not in the eyes of this inspector.
No, and in all fairness, and that's fine. I was like, okay, I'll go get.
Well,
a
it's
permit.
not fine, because I remember when James called me and said, "You won't believe what's happening."
Yeah. Well, I thought at that point I was like, okay, well, I'll just go get a permit.
Right,
I didn't think that it would turn into what it did.
And what did it turn into?
So I went down the day after Independence Day. I went down to the city of Boise, and they set me up with planning and zoning.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm sitting there talking to the gal, and she's looking at, my property and where the building was.
And you had to take in like a site plan or a drawing showing how far the property lines are, and from the building to this and this to the street. And yeah.
Yeah. So I had measured all that out, and,
Yeah.
I did my research in the first couple of days. I'd talked to you about a couple of things. And then, I went down there, and I started talking to them, and come to find out that because I tore the building that was there down, instead of actually utilizing part of the building to
if
make
you would have left up part of a wall.
Right. If I would have left up some part of the old structure, they would have considered leaving the setbacks as they were, because they had not, even though it was a building that was built without an a permit before, it reached that, so to say, statute of limitation of what they could do after so long of that building being there without them saying anything.
Yeah, they call it grandfathered in. It's been there long enough and hasn't caused any problems. They let it go.
Right. And so if I had left a part of that there, then they would have considered, okay, cool, you can just leave it here, build this thing.
Because you also told me in our conversation that you went around the neighborhood and you could look at violation. They're all there. Why am I getting picked on?
Yeah. And that goes into the whole grandfathered thing, right?
Right.
People didn't get caught, and so that,
Right.
they get to keep what they got. But,
Yeah.
and that's why they didn't bother me with what I had there to begin with. So, so we started talking about that. And at that point they told me, because I live on a corner lot, I have to be 20 feet off of the side road, and then 10 or 15 feet from the rear road, or my rear fence line, because U-stick runs right off the back of my fence, and then I have the entry to my subdivision on the right side of my property.
Ah.
And so they have this thing they call a triangle of vision.
Right. Right.
So when you're looking around a corner, you want to be able to see through the corner, and so on and so forth, which is
You've learned a lot more about all this than you probably really wanted to know. All you want to do is build a shop.
Yeah, I've learned a lot.
All right, we're going to pick it up there after this break here and find out what you had to do, because, boy, 20 feet off this and 10 feet, 15 feet this, where that old slab is, that's not going to work anymore.
And when is my car going to get worked on? Gosh darn it.
If you've ever been involved in a remodeling project, you ask yourself sometimes, I wonder if I need a permit for this, or is there anybody that, watching over me? I can do what I want. You can't tell me what to do. And well, in some cases, yeah, you can, because we do have zoning, and we have ordinances, and we have, building codes and rules and stuff that just being part of where we live, we have to do that. And especially in the communities where houses are a little closer together, or properties are smaller, and some of the things that you can and can't do are unknown until you enter that world of having to do that. And Christian Niezgoda and James Reeves are my guests in the studio this morning. They're very good friends with each other and share the hobby interest of working on cars and racing and doing that. And Christian, where we left off, you had a knock on the door and one of the inspectors just happened to come by, and we don't know what prompted that. He didn't disclose, and you haven't been able to find out, but it doesn't matter. You've moved on.
Yeah.
But you found out that you cannot put this new building up where the old one was. Is that what it really came down to? Did you try to get any variances, or did you plead, beg?
Yeah, I mean, I pleaded and I begged and I talked to the people. They told me I could do a variance or file for a variance, and essentially that process requires about 4 months of time.
Right.
And, you have to hold some public meetings once a month.
And there's no guarantee.
Yeah, and there's no guarantee. So you could wait the whole 4 months and still be declined, even though, like, every neighbor or whatever your majority vote is like yes or whatever. Who knows?
And you can also be delayed because depending what comes up, you may get bumped down the schedule, and that's just so sad. Too bad. That's the way it is. And this could have went on for much longer than what the ideal amount of time was.
Right. It definitely could have. And so I made the decision to just to move the building.
How'd that do for your budget and your financial plan?
Not so well.
Yeah.
At one point, I pretty much just wanted to give up. I was going to sell the building I had bought, the VersaTube kit, to a friend, and just close everything up and not be able to work on my friends' cars and help them out.
Because at this point, you had disassembled the kit.
Yeah, so
it went back in the box.
Yeah, pretty much. We took it down pretty shortly after they told me I couldn't put it where it was.
Yeah.
Just so I didn't have to raise any flags or have any issues, because it could lead to the point where if I had left it up, they could, they can bring in some code enforcement, and
actually fine you.
Yeah, actually
which would hurt the budget even more.
Yeah, and like the worst case scenario would be is they come in and they tear the building down themselves, completely ruin what I had there,
right,
and then charge me for doing so.
So you did everything right up to that point. So obviously you must have had enough land on this property because you've relocated where you're doing this. Is that right?
I am relocating it, but the only way I could do it is I have to make it less than 500 square feet. So the building originally was about 600, being 20 by 30. So I have to make it less than 500 square feet, and then I can have reduced setbacks on the opposite side of the property. So on the opposite side of the property, I share a fence line with a neighbor and then still U-stick. But if it's under 500 square feet, I can have the building 10 feet off the back fence and 3 feet off the side fence.
Oh.
And I can put it there legally, and they'll give me a permit, and everything will be fine and dandy.
So was that a somewhat of a relief to find that out, that you could at least do something still?
Yeah, I mean, it was a relief in that factor. The hardest part about it is the expense, right? So now I have to pour an entirely new slab. I have to do footings. I have to excavate a whole new site.
Right.
It's just a huge financial expense.
And I think James, one of James's talents, he's a wonderful videographer. He does film work and has done, I'm probably not describing it right, but you've done commercials that all of us have seen on television for the lottery and medical institutions and all what was it, ORIDA and
Idaho Transportation Department.
Yeah.
Kendall, Blue Cross,
yeah,
Idaho Lottery.
Some of those spots with Kellen Moore and those in them, you've done those. And
Leighton Vander Esch.
Yeah. So James has some incredible video capability, and you've been filming this process at Christian's place. And the last one I saw, you were laying on the ground down in the trench and saying, "Hey, we're getting ready to put concrete in." And
yeah, I mean, I just try to add a fun element. Life's crazy. There's so much stuff going on and lots of different fundraisers, but I felt compelled to put myself out there to the public because Christian is not just someone who helps people. He's not someone that just has the ability to build things and do things. He is a certain kind of craftsman that I really regard as an artist, someone who can look at things and come up with abstract solutions for real world problems. Mm-hmm. And the more original thinkers and abstract problem solvers we have in this world, the better. We need that human element to stay in our society.
And it speaks to you, Christian, too, that you didn't just give up. You took your licks and you got knocked down, but you're coming back from it. Where is this project sitting right now, and what does the future look like?
So right now they required me to get a different set of engineered plans for the building. So I'm waiting for those to arrive. In the meantime, I was told that I could prep the site for a concrete slab. And so we've been excavating the new site, and we're at the point of pretty much ready to set forms and build the forms and everything, do rebar and be ready to be pouring concrete. Now I can't pour concrete until I have the engineered plans and I have a for sure permit.
Right. You don't want to get ahead of it again and then find out, wah, 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 wah.
Yeah, exactly. So right now we're just kind of playing the waiting game while we're doing what we can in the meantime. So we have the site excavated. We're ready for forms. As soon as I get those plans, I can send that or go to the city of Boise and get the actual permit. But I have been approved by planning and zoning for the location already.
That's good. That's good. So you've got that signed off. So now they're just going to look at is the edge, is the overhang thick enough? Is it wide enough? Is the ground been prepped properly? And so has the site work been inspected yet? Because that usually happens when the forms have not been filled yet.
So no, I haven't had any inspections.
Oh, because you don't have a permit.
I don't have
That's
a
right.
permit.
That's right.
So I'm doing everything that I can prior to that to prep the site for inspection.
So how has it been working with the city of Boise now when you have questions? Are they getting, here comes Christian again?
It's actually been pretty good. I've been dealing with a gentleman named Josh down there, and I email him every once in a while when I have a question, and he responds pretty promptly to me and gives me the answers I need. So I can't say it's been bad. They've been helpful in the fact of helping me relocate this properly, even though they made this entire situation happen. But
right,
in all the right reasons. I'm not putting blame on anyone. I mean, it is what it is. That's their job, and
you understand why now too.
Yeah. I totally get it. You can be upset and point fingers all you want, but in all reality, it was mostly my fault because I didn't go do the research beforehand.
And imagine if you went down there and stomped in. I mean, you're a pretty big guy. You've got a somewhat not imposing, but you'd look like you had some skills. If you had to get kind of angry with somebody, and that wouldn't have got you anywhere with that.
No,
that's very counterproductive when people start yelling and hollering and making it difficult on somebody who's just doing their job with the city.
I've been in customer service pretty much my entire life. I've been building cars and doing that and dealing with customers. And I ran automotive facilities prior to, doing what I do now. And even now, right now, I write customer service emails for a company remotely, and I handle all their customer service. So I understand that. I have to deal with people that are mad all the time.
You have to defuse situations.
Yeah. So I get the receiving end of that. So I try to make it a point to never do that to anybody because it's never their fault. Like I take the brunt end of the stick because, a product or had an issue or something like that. And it's not like I personally attacked your product. You know what I mean? Like I sent you a bad part on purpose. The same thing goes for them. Like they didn't purposely do that. It's just their job.
Yeah. Well, there's another development in this that James has brought to the table. We'll tell you about that when we come back, and maybe something fun that you can actually interact with this project and Christian and what he's doing when we come back with more of the Home Fix Show after this. We're about to wrap up here. Christian Niezgoda and James Reeves talking about rebuilding Christian's shop. He calls it Eagle Motor Works, and we'll tell you something coming up here you might want to explore a little bit further. But you said something as we were going into the break there, and I thought that's probably one of the most valuable things that I think people need to hear out of this, and that was when you went down to the city and you started talking to planning and zoning, you got mad, but you chose to walk away from the discussion rather than take it out on somebody that was there.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, it's not entirely like that person's fault, and you can't go and just blow up on someone. I was mad. I was super upset, and I I didn't see that coming, and it was a huge blow to me. And
right. Yeah. All your dreams just got crushed right then.
Yeah. I mean, I am a human, and like I practically teared up walking out of the place. But at the same point, I was so mad. I like wanted to scream at someone, but it wasn't fair to that person to receive that because it wasn't their fault. So I chose to just get up and leave. I just left.
But you came back.
I did go back, and I was asked why I left. When I came back, I was kind of shocked that they even knew that I just up and left. I guess they had made a note of that.
It was memorable.
And so Josh down there was just like, man, that was really valiant of you to do that and just up and leave and not do that to somebody and scream and yell and get upset at people and just recoup yourself and figure it out.
Because we hear about how people who serve the public, whether it's at the building department or as a police officer or a firefighter or the public library, they get yelled at by people. It seems like the world has such a short fuse, that's just looking for a spark anymore.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a weird way in society, and the internet's changed a lot of that with a lot of the social medias and things like that.
Yeah, it's okay to be an ass.
Yeah, and I don't think it is. I think that the social media aspect is teaching that to a lot of the youth and the upcoming people in the world, that they just are entitled to having an opinion and then just blowing up on someone. Mm-hmm. You're completely entitled to have an opinion. You don't need to scream and yell about it. Have a conversation about it.
Right. So this was a big financial hit for you.
Massive.
And James, you saw that also, and you said, I want to help with this.
Yeah, it's not just me. I mean, Christian puts himself out there for what we just call grassroots drifting and motorsports. And like I mentioned earlier, I revere Christian as an artist.
Yeah.
Our community heavily relies on people like Christian, and we all do, whether or not you know Christian personally. You have a Christian in your life or in your circle of friends, like you, Joe, for instance, with the show. We need people like that in society.
Well, thank you. Yeah, Christian, you kind of remind me of in the Fast and the Furious series. You're the Dom character.
Totally the Dom.
That's what James refers to me as. Yeah.
You even kind of look like Vin Diesel a little bit.
Now that I've shaved my head, it's probably
it probably is. You just don't drive a black Charger.
No, I drive BMWs.
Yeah, you drive the cars that he would make fun of. Yeah. But so through this, James, you thought, I can rally our team. I can rally all of our friends and, our family around the team. And we can only do so much. You guys have been out there yielding wrenches and shovels and support and bringing lunch and helping and cheering on. But you also created a T-shirt that you're offering up for sale through a GoFundMe thing, right?
Yes, and it's really more than a shirt. Yes, it's a shirt. It's what the shirt symbolizes.
Yeah, tell me about the art that's on that.
Well, as a filmmaker, using a camera isn't enough. It's supposed to be a storytelling device. This shirt is a storytelling device. It is becoming a part of achieving what the odds said, you can't do this or you can't do that. The art is a hand made by my other favorite Polish artist, Sokalski, and it is a hand with 4 fingers opposing the thumb. The thumb is Christian in the symbolism of this. And Christian is someone who wields the tools, and without wielding the tools, we wouldn't have the ability to make society. And so the piece by Sokalski is called The Struggle. The shirt is called The Struggle. It's an homage to Sokalski, but I feel that Sokalski made this bronze piece, which was destroyed in World War II, with people like Christian and his father in mind, with those individuals that are in your circle that are helping build things and make your dreams come true on your property.
So this shirt, I've ordered one for myself, and I'm looking forward to receiving that. It's a black shirt with the red art that's on it, and the little Eagle Motors Work logo is on the back by the neck, right on the back, and
Yes. Yeah. So we try to make it into a pretty stylish looking shirt. It's line work. That's an homage to Silkowski's The Struggle.
If you want to get one of these and kind of help out the cause here, good group of people. The place that you go to, it's GoFundMe. If you know what that is, you know what it is. You just go to GoFundMe.com and search for fundraisers in your area. That's the easiest way to do this. GoFundMe.com, fundraisers in your area. And when you see the one that says Eagle Motor Works Shop Rebuild, and it's not, your shop's not in Eagle. It's in Boise.
No, so
is the eagle, the wings, the flying, the symbol of the eagle?
So the reason I named my, that Eagle Motorworks is I am from Poland, and they have an eagle as their on their flag. And so when I created an original logo for the things that we were doing, it was actually a half eagle and half a bald eagle, a Polish eagle and half bald eagle for.
That's why you shaved your head. The bald eagle. That's why you did that. All right, it's GoFundMe.com, fundraisers in your area. Look for Eagle Motor Shops Rebuild. You buy a T-shirt, and a few bucks of that goes to help Christian get a shop built. And looking forward to hearing more about it. I think you're on the right path. But thanks for sharing that struggle and your testimony of not giving up and perseverance, and how that'll come back to reward you over and over again.
Thanks, Joe.
All right. Thanks, James. Thanks for coming down, Christian. Great to hear that. We'll be back after the news coming up here in just a moment with more of the Home Fix Show. If you'd like to call in, the number 208-336-3700. Emails to joe@joeprin.com. Back after the news.